If you're an Iron Man fan, you should probably be an Avatar Korra fan as well, and same goes in the vice versa. I didn't used to be a fan of Iron Man, but after I watched Korra and went back to watching the films, I have since become a fan of Tony Stark, because Korra and Stark are pretty much the same person. Don't know what I mean? Don't worry, let me explain. Now, Tony and Korra's journeys are incredibly similar across both all of Tony's individual movies, the Avengers movies, and very different things in which he features in. And the same goes for Korra across her seasons and even in the comic books themselves. They have inherited a glorified title. In Korra's case, it is the Avatar, the pillar of balance in the world. And for Stark, it is the name Stark and the honorary title that his father's name comes alongside it. His father being well known for helping the war effort and changing the face of the industry and science as they knew it. And by them inheriting these things, through the name, through the image in which they are meant to uphold, and having this legacy to kind of live up to, they go about it in very different ways, but have a very similar outcome. In Tony's case, it is all about outdoing his father in a sense, trying to do things bigger and better. And Korra, it's kind of the same thing, but more so that she is leaning into the Avatar title, whereas Aang rejected it. She is desperate to be the Avatar, so latches on to that title and refuses to let go, even when reality shows that her doing so is more of a hindrance than anything else. Now, the two of them come to realise that not only do their titles and the things that made them special have problems in the world itself, but in a sense it caused the issues. For Tony, it was realising that his weapons are doing more harm than good. For Korra, it was realising that being a bender in many cases causes more problems and senses of division than balance than she'd like to realise. And it takes her a lot of time to realise that herself. And as their journeys go on, they kind of follow very similar beats. They both try to fight back against the problems that, in a sense, they have had a hand in causing. In Tony's case, it's creating the suit to go and bring back the weapons that ended up in enemy hands, and kind of undo all the problems that he himself, in a sense, had caused. With Korra, it was basically trying to dismantle this equalist regime because it was stirring up more problems than it needed to, whilst also then realising that the non-benders had a point and standing up for them in turn, for example against the literal establishment. And in doing so, they kind of go against the status quo, causing more problems in a sense for other people, but in their minds doing what was right. And it's from there that their stories again continue down the same route when they are betrayed by someone they called friend or saw as a mentor or someone that they honestly kind of loved or cared about and respected. In Tony's case, it was his father's friend, someone who was a confidant for himself. In Korra's case, it was pretty much anyone that could betray her did. It was a family member in book 2, it was the establishment in book 1, and technically the establishment in book 3. But the establishment doesn't like Korra. And that's kind of the same with Tony as well. Tony is going against what a lot of establishments in technically war profiteering do. He wasn't allowed he didn't want them to profit off of war and cause more problems than there needed to be. And yet, even after being betrayed, even after winning, with Tony against his father's friend, with Korra against Amon, their win led to them becoming cockier and more intense and more full of themselves after the fact. Tony in the second movie is all about the image of Iron Man, using Iron Man as a prop for himself to look better. he uses it to his advantage as best he can. Korra used the same thing with the Avatar state and the Avatar title in book 2, which then leads to further betrayal. And same with Tony as well. That is causing further problems by him acting this way and going against the establishment. And while in some cases it makes sense for him to do so, same with Korra, their attitude kind of caused their problems in that sense, because they got what they wanted in the first place. The first time around, they got what they wanted. They won. And while it did cost a lot, it didn't cost them everything. And this is when the cycle continues. And we see this a lot with Korra and with Tony. They lose a lot later on. And they need to bring them down to the point where they realise that not everything can be pulled off with cocky attitude and just doing what you want. And that's something that I really admire about Korra and Iron Man and / Tony's attitude, is that they stayed very similar for a long period of time, and in some cases that can be frustrating, but it makes a lot of sense. If you win, you are going to be cocky. That's kind of what people do. That's human. If you do well, you're going to boast about it. But the fact that as they continue to win less, more problems come about from this. And it's in their experiences of what they go on that leads to these personal sacrifices and the losses that they have. In the case of Tony, it's finding out that his parents, that their murders were orchestrated. He has his best friend lose the ability of his legs because of a fight that kind of has been brought about because of him. And then in Endgame, he makes the final sacrifice to save the world because it's time for him to rest. Korra, in book 3, she sacrifices herself for the Air Nation because the Air Nation has finally come back after 170 years. It is returned, and she can't allow them to be wiped out when she could try and do something to save them. She sacrifices her body, she sacrifices her mind, she gives up everything. She loses the past life, she loses briefly her connection to Rava. In book 4, she suffers with PTSD, she suffers with the inability to connect to Rava herself. Both Korra and Tony sacrifice so much of themselves to help save the world and save those they love and save what they know to be right. And the fact is that it took them a long time to realise what that was and to kind of get over, I wouldn't call them a flaw, but sort of personality flaws of their cockishness, of their bullheadishness, of their superiority complex in a sense as well, of when they've won, it means that they're amazing. It means that they're brilliant. While some of that is true, it's not always 100% exact. And while Tony is finally able to rest now, his job complete, and while, oh my god, it was devastating that he doesn't get to live that happy ending that he wanted, Korra is what his story in a sense carries on with. While her job is never going to be done, she has these moments of being able to rest and being able to have this life that she deserves to have after everything that she has sacrificed for. I'm glad that one version of a Tony Stark has that happy ending, and that is with Avatar Korra. But what do you guys think? Do you think Tony and Korra are kind of similar in characters and enjoy my comparison between the two of them? Whatever the case, let me know in the comment section down below. I feel like I'm going to have ticked off a lot of Marvel and Korra fans possibly, so please be kind. In general though, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. In the description box you'll find the links to all of my social media, my merchandise store and my Patreon. If you can support me on Patreon, that would be truly appreciated, but if not, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.